The Chevy Traverse is a mid-size three-row crossover designed for people who could use a van but would rather not get a van. For 2019, the Traverse is continuing its move upmarket, bringing premium features to mainstream buyers. Is it worth it? Let's find out. Before I received one to test, the Traverse was not a vehicle I ever thought much about. It's a big, rather anonymous-looking crossover that is based on the Buick Enclave. Or you could say the Enclave is based on the Traverse. Either way, the Traverse is a mass consumption version of the Enclave, coming in at a significantly lower price point, even when very well equipped. The Traverse competes directly with the Ford Explorer, Honda Pilot, Volkswagen Atlas, and the Subaru Ascent. The model I drove was a nearly top-of-the-line all-wheel drive Premier trim. It was loaded with leather, navigation, and a V6 for $49,590, including destination. Under the hood was a 3.6-liter V6. It put down 310 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque. You can option a 2-liter turbo in the RS model, but that only gets you 257 horsepower, and it's only limited to front-wheel drive. I don't really see the point in that model personally. Power from the V6 was pushed through a 9-speed automatic transmission to all 4 wheels when, and only when, the driver selects it. Otherwise, you're rolling in front-only mode, which I presume that mechanism keeps costs down. Chevy makes you get the $54,195 High Country for the twin clutch system that automatically moves torque front to back. On all other trims, you need to turn the traction knob to get all-wheel drive enabled, hopefully before you get stuck. Still, once engaged, the system provides ample power to the back to keep things interesting. We took the Traverse to one of our favorite off-road playgrounds and just tossed it around in the loose stuff. Even with 8 inches of ground clearance, I did still manage to bump the undercarriage a few times, which did discourage me from going out on the more difficult trails. But under most conditions, the system was just fine. The Traverse also has specific off-road and tow modes as well. Off-road sends more torque to the rear, while the towing mode keeps the Traverse in a lower gear. But I didn't have anything to tow, and honestly, the off-road conditions were just fine. I didn't need to go into a special mode. Oh, do note that the chassis of the Traverse is rated up to 5,000 pounds of towing capacity. Inside the Traverse, the cabin was nice, but it was on the bland side. Even keeping in mind that this is an upper-level trim, it just didn't have much for me going on visually. That said, it was loaded with features. But one that I turned off almost immediately was the digital rear view mirrors. My eyes simply couldn't handle focusing that close. And because it was a digital image, that means there was no perspective, there was no depth. So I just disabled that one immediately. Unfortunately, when you disable that screen, the standard mirror is much darker than a normal one. I would prefer a standard mirror and just rely on the excellent surround view camera system, which is on the lower screen, for backing up and parking. That lower screen is 8 inches, and it is so much easier to look at. And not just because it's bigger, it's also slightly further away from your eyes, making it easier to focus on. Let's talk about that infotainment. In spite of the ridiculously out-of-date graphics, the standard at this trim-level 8-inch system was really nice. It supports Apple Carplay and Android Auto, plus it features all the usual hits: XM radio, navigation with quick search. Here, watch as I do a search for the nearest Starbucks. It may not be as quick as asking Siri or Hey Google to find it, but this system also doesn't rely on an internet connection. Sometimes, especially in a crossover when you go off-roading, you'll be off-grid, and at that point you are reliant on the built-in maps. The main screen is also where you can manage the teen driver feature. This allows you to restrict top speed when handing the Traverse off to a younger driver. You can also limit stereo volume so they don't blow your system or get too distracted while driving. The front seats feature dual-zone climate control and can also be heated or ventilated with a push of a button. Though the buttons were kind of oddly placed, but they did work fine. An LTE 4G Wi-Fi hotspot is also included at this trim level. That makes it easy for the whole family to enjoy internet access while on the road. Of course, you could also just enable internet sharing on your existing mobile device. You don't need a car for that. Still, I guess some people like the idea. Every row also comes with USB sockets for easy charging. Yes, even the third row. And speaking of the third row, I surprisingly fit back there. Just takes a little human origami to get into spot, and you're good. The second row was even better, of course. This one came with the optional captain's chairs. The second row also gets heated seats as well as personalized climate control. You also get lots of door slots, which you undoubtedly will lose stuff in. The rear power liftgate can be activated with the push of a button. It also supports hand-free by waving a foot under the rear gate or by pressing a button on the remote. With the third row up, it had 23 cubic feet of storage, which is already pretty good all things considered. Plus, it had a handy false floor for secure items. With the third row down, you can fit up to 57.8 cubic feet of stuff in there. Fold all the rows, and you're looking at a whopping 98.2 cubic feet of total capacity. That's an additional 10 cubic feet of storage over the Subaru Ascent and 2 more feet compared to the Volkswagen Atlas. It's pretty impressive. I think we found the purpose of the Traverse: hauling stuff. Driving the Traverse was good. It had plenty of power for the size, and it handled well for a vehicle of this class. My biggest concern was, for a vehicle focused on family buyers, Chevrolet did a good job of keeping the best safety tech out of lower trim models. Even though the Premier was loaded with blind spot monitoring, front collision warning, lane detection, rear cross traffic alerts, and auto high beams, you still had to get the even more expensive High Country to get front auto braking. Competitors like Subaru and Honda include this feature standard on all trim levels, even the base models. Also, adaptive cruise control wasn't available on any trim level in the Traverse. That's becoming more common on competitor cars, and it would be a nice addition here, especially a vehicle so focused on travel as this one. And honestly, nothing makes a state-to-state trip nicer than adaptive cruise control. Overall, the 2019 Chevrolet Traverse is a fine vehicle if you need something large and feature-rich, but you don't really want to move into a minivan. And considering it starts at $31,125, it's actually relatively affordable if you don't need the extras. The Premier model I drove was easy to live with every day, and it could even handle basic off-roading tasks thanks to the available all-wheel drive and enough ground clearance to be usable. But the lack of advanced safety is concerning in this price range. It's clear that Chevrolet is using safety to lure buyers up market. So unless you're looking at one of those top models already and you don't need every inch of storage the Traverse can provide, you might consider something from the competition, like Subaru or Honda or even this Mazda CX-9. Since all of those give you more safety features without making you spend $50,000 to get them. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and rate this video. Also, check us out on Instagram. We post almost every day, giving you a preview of what's to come. We'll see you next time.